30 seconds by becoming rich. Take all your money, buy Bitcoin. I say when we sell.
Wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. Monday, 22nd of July, daily levels. So, what's happening? Well, BTC is sort of in an interesting spot, because from this previous consolidation it had, after it stopped trending around about here, we had that breakout, moving up, stopped trending upwards and moved sideways. We had a distribution across here until that breakout attempt, so just before that. And we have a couple of kind of conflicting pieces of information here. The point of control of this previous value area is right at the value area low from the May to June, which was over here where Bitcoin was distributing. But it's fallen back inside the value area high. So my expectation of BTC, if it were to bounce up to here, would be that it would reject and probably go to the value area low. Now at that point, if that holds, that could be a good area if it goes below it and then back above this value area low. Could actually be a decent long, because when you have these impulsive moves, so price dumped down after Biden dropped out of the presidential race, and then it rallied all the way up, and this would equal a deep pullback, retracing most of the move and filling in most of the move, which wouldn't equal immediate moon, but I think going below there, so pushing back down below 67 and seeing what's down there and then reclaiming this value area low at 67 would probably be one of the better setups. So I'd be watching that. I don't like bidding these areas, right? So when Bitcoin broke out above here, to me, if this was going to be immediate continuation, it would not have fallen to where it is now, right? So I was actually marking this out last night. And this is the absolute lowest part where you would have seen it price pulling back to. And it didn't do that. So, over here, I would have been looking at price coming no lower than this and holding and staying up here. That would indicate then that Bitcoin is broken out and is consolidating above, where it would then push to 69 and to 70. I don't see that now. I see that what's happened last night and into this morning probably sets up more of a consolidation sideways, maybe that point of control getting hit as it did. We've just bounced really nicely off at that wick. Maybe that point of control getting hit is going to be a catalyst for price, which is also confluence with this May-June value area. You can see over here, this value area low from the May-June distribution. Maybe that is going to be the area to look at as holding, but I wouldn't say that you would have confidence in that unless Bitcoin is able to reclaim pretty quickly and then confirm that it's actually breaking out from there. So at the start of the week, I think that if we go and look at the weekly, price is coming down, putting in a lower wick early in the week, which is good, right? Because if this is going to be a green week, you would actually like to see it go lower first. You just need to be mindful of how low is it going to go, how far is it going to pull back. Bitcoin had a very good weekly close. You can't really deny that. However, it doesn't indicate that it's going to moon this week. We've had 2 really strong green weeks, and expectation of having a third while we're up into resistance, I would say is less likely. I would expect, and I would actually prefer to see some consolidation in here to show that BTC can hold up at the top end of the range and not drop back. The main thing for this week is that it doesn't retrace all of last week. That's a very real risk for bulls and for long setups. If everything that happened last week gets retraced in this week, if you look on like a daily chart, if we go back, there was Monday of last week, and if we end up pushing back down and retracing most of that move up. That would put Bitcoin firmly out of the realm of further trend. The other thing, when you're seeing these moves up and they just grind higher and it's pushing, that's not generally the way you want to see it move. You would rather see it move up and sideways. Right? So what I mean by that, a better way to see it move is up and correcting sideways, and then up and correcting down and sideways, rather than moving up and up and up and up and up like it's doing here, where it just keeps grabbing stops all the way, which can indicate that it's squeezing out shorts, and then when a pullback comes, the pullback can be deeper. You know, it's a little bit like this here. See how price just kept relentlessly pushing, then it runs out of steam and you have a proper pullback. That could be something that we're seeing here, because when price moves up like that, if it's going to keep squeezing, push, you want to see a weak sell-off attempt and a sideways consolidation near the highs, right? So what you'd like to see really is Bitcoin going sideways until the bands catch up and showing some consolidation up here. We'll see how that goes. There's a lot coming up this week. Bitcoin conference, heading into the weekend. We've got GDP data, you've got inflation data. Big week. And I think that we'll see probably a much clearer picture of what's going to happen next over the next 7 days. Zoom back out to the weekly here and just look at the closes on ETH and Solana as well. ETH with a nice close. It cleared away from all of this previous lower area. You can see that ETH had stayed above this red box that I talked about. Solana with the strongest of all. Solana above 172 is good. So having a weekly close above there, having some consolidation up near the highs is very good. I would say Solana, you want to see a retest of this 172 area, this value area high. If Solana is able to hold at that level, I think that is a good indication. Put on the value area high and low. Them in black here. Those are the areas you want to look at. I would say if Sol comes back to that area and holds it, that's a good sign. Good sign for the market. Value area high, retest. And how'd the stock market open? So obviously with Biden dropping out over the weekend, like I mentioned, trading analysis, you'll notice how this said this last week. Guess why he won't drop out before the weekend? Market moving news often gets pushed outside of hours. Whenever there's a big announcement to come, whether it's a declaration of war or a tax or key figures dropping out or joining races or announcing big news or even Fed news or lots of stuff, like lots of these market moving events do actually coincide with weekends. And then the markets have to react when they open. And this opened where? Sunday here. So the markets initially opened up and have remained slightly higher since that. So even just in the pre-market, still very early to say, pre-market on the S&P, pre-market on the NASDAQ seems to be taking that Biden dropping out as slightly bullish. The dollar opening up red, so the dollar has dropped. So the signs would be, at least the early indication from the market is that it believes that Biden dropping out is either good for Trump's chances or good overall, because I guess it creates a little bit more clarity, as it's an admission that Biden is not fit to run. Kamala Harris is far and away the favorite to be the Democrat nominee. And I think what you're going to see now over the next few days is, days and weeks, it's going to be Trump figuring out who he's going to be running against And I think the expectation is if they actually run Kamala Harris, Trump's going to win. Because everybody knows that she's just woefully inept, woefully unprepared and unfit to be a president. And I just see no way that she would beat Trump. Like, the thing that Biden actually had going for him, I know, we're aware of all the bullshit and psyops and lies and all that stuff. But Democrats, which is also true, by the way, Democrats would look at Biden and said, oh, Biden beat Trump in 2020, so he can do it again. Like, that was Biden's whole thing. Biden's whole thing was, I beat Trump in 2020, we're going to beat him again, we're going to win this race, and, keep the fucking bad man out. Now it kind of throws it into disarray. I actually think that there's a much stronger chance, and I think the odds would actually increase for the Democrats if it's somebody other than Harris. But it's kind of difficult because Biden's dropped out, but he's endorsed her. And because the left is so woke, DEI, all this nonsense, they're going to find it hard to pull her out and put in somebody, especially like Gavin Newsom, who's like a white man. And they're going to pull her out. They're going to say, what are you taking this woman of color? You're not going to run her. You're going to run this white man. It could actually create discontent among the Democrats. People talk about Michelle Obama. I mean, there's never actually been any indication from her that she wants to run. It's kind of just one of these things where they look around and they're like, oh, well, should run Michelle Obama. That would make sense. And has there ever been? Well, there never has been a successful first lady running for president. Like Hillary Clinton tried it, but she's a career politician, right? Obama's not. She's just the husband of Obama, I guess. The wife of Obama, whatever you want to call her. So, history would say that it's not really a great strategy. So the markets will probably be volatile because it now introduces a lot of confusion, right? As they try and price in what's going to happen next. And if you look at the S&P, which is starting to pull back, and the NASDAQ, which is definitely pulling back. If you remember over the past few weeks, I've talked a lot about how in an election year, around the summertime, you have a period where the markets pull back. And actually, once they finally top out pre-election, they tend to actually not go higher until post-election. Not significantly. And you're looking at like over here as post-election. So it wouldn't be surprising at all to see the markets do something like that. And post-election, once there's clarity, then it goes. That's the typical election year move. It's actually not typical to see the markets rip higher, and I mean like at all. If you look at every single, I'll just use the S&P because that's the main market. So here we go. 2020 topped out in September, did not go higher again until after the election. Right, that was the spike on the election week, and then higher it went. 2016. And I won't go through all of these, I've covered these before. 2016, topped out sort of in August, did not go higher until after the election, and it went significantly higher. And that's true for every election since 2000. So, it seems to be tracking history pretty much so far, and I think that this will create lots of lower time frame rotations as markets flip-flop from trying to price in who's going to be the Democrat nominee, what are the odds of Trump beating each of them, what do the Democrats have up their sleeve, what's the plan, what's going to happen, and of course, what else could happen around the country. This probably sets up more possibility for uncertainty and unrest. You never know what's going to happen next. Markets do not like uncertainty. So, despite the fact that the markets are slightly green so far, it's way too early to read anything into that about what's going to happen over the next week, month, and 3 months until the election. The number one thing you must remember, markets do not like uncertainty. That's why in 2020, when it was Trump against Biden, and the polls were super close, because people were not happy with Trump, Democrats hated him, everyone thinks he's Hitler, blah, blah, blah. So in the months leading up to the election, markets were not going higher because they don't know what's happening, uncertainty. 2016, again, it was Trump running against Hillary, so 2 new people, right? Obama had to leave, couldn't do another 4 years. And it was complete uncertainty. Is it going to be Trump? Is it going to be Hillary? 2 completely different outcomes. Markets just failed to go higher before that's cleared up. And now we're in the same place. We got Trump. We know what Trump's like as a president. We know what would happen if Trump was back in. But now it's like, it's not going to be Biden. So it's Trump, who is very divisive, versus some new person who's never been president before, which again is going to be very, very uncertain. So it's hard to say anything other than just a consolidation phase now, where markets go down / sideways for a couple of months. And whether that carries over into crypto, it's hard to say because we don't have, we don't have a huge amount of historical data to back this up. I mean, you can compare Bitcoin with the stock market, and you can look at it here of how it looked in 2020, right? So in 2020, during that phase, Bitcoin topped out around the same time. Bitcoin ended up going higher in October. So Bitcoin, by the time the election came around, was already ripping quite a bit higher, even though the stock market wasn't. So they both did top out. They both did go down into consolidations, and then Bitcoin moved up first. So that was a case where Bitcoin went higher initially. 2016, something similar. Where are we here? 2016, Bitcoin had dropped off from $700 down to $500. And as the stock market was going sideways, so was Bitcoin. Bitcoin did not break out until December, right? You see here, that was Bitcoin's high. Bitcoin broke from that high again in December, so post-election. And go to 2012, it's probably not super relevant because Bitcoin was a much, much smaller asset at that point. So all signs point towards probably some kind of consolidation coming in here. And I think that's my view going into this week. I think there's plenty of good feeling, plenty of bullish potential, enough to drag Bitcoin to 70 for sure. I think it can drag Bitcoin to the all-time high around this Bitcoin conference and the expectations of everything going forward. But I'd be surprised if we see July or early August. I'd be surprised if we see a big clean breakout on BTC. I think probably we're going to see some kind of consolidation at the highs or pullback first, as the markets try to digest what's going on here and price in a Trump versus whoever it's going to be next. The Democrat convention is in August, and I think the market is going to probably hold its breath until then. So the Democrat National Convention is August 19th, right? So that's when, we're not going to know who it is until then. And it even can't be. Even if Biden is backing Harris, the delegates have to vote at the convention on August 19th or in that week. So that is what? 4 weeks away? More than 4 weeks? Just over 4 weeks? So still a while. And I think that this next few weeks is going to be full of stories one way and the other, and probably sets up more of a sideways chop. So that's it. So I was looking on Monday, GM. See you later on the live stream, 4 p.m. See you later on the Blue Belt stream, 6 p.m. UTC, of course, GM.